Okay. Can we shut this door? It's just like a
Yeah.
All right, everybody, we'll call the meeting to order. It's 1 o'clock on Tuesday, June the 5th, June the 2nd. Getting ahead of myself. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis people. Some of our council members are attending via GoToMeeting remotely, and some of us are physical distancing within the RM office. I'll start with introductions with, on my left on the screen, Graham.
Hello, I'm Graham.
And to my right is Erwin. Your mic is off, Erwin.
Turn your mic on, Erwin.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Erwin Kump is my name.
And up top there.
And I'm Steve.
Thank you, gentlemen. And
I'm Mike Bartmanovich.
I'm Penny McMorris.
Raymond Morrow, CAO.
All right. So we have an adoption of the agenda. I noticed that there are a couple additions. Speed display devices on highways. Access to municipal buildings in regard to COVID-19. And Steve, I've added the volunteer award form that you sent, if that's all right.
Sure. I did have two things if I could throw up on it.
Okay.
It would just be, since this is the parking lot operators now reached their COVID-19 prevention strategy, I'd like to have a discussion on the need for a COVID-19 pass for the VRA and a discussion on the parking lot plan.
I would say no to the COVID pass, Steve. We've already discussed that. What
Yeah.
was your second one? But we'll have to.
We discussed it previously in private, but we haven't discussed it in public, and I think that it is worthwhile to have a public discussion on it.
Steve, that's not our. I disagree. But that's just me. What was your second item?
The second item was discussion on the parking lot plan, which has now been released to the public.
Again, that's not our plan. That's Kevin's plan. So, what? I mean,
What's to discuss?
what's to discuss? Yeah.
Well, I would say a couple of the issues, but they all relate back to the need for a COVID pass, as well as some fairly major issues when it comes to just protection of the residents in general. So I mean, we haven't had public discussion, and I think that it's worthwhile to see what individual councillors feel about the plan as a whole.
But I think we've already approved the plan as a whole, and it's already gone out to the public. So I think we're.
Yeah.
I think it's a moot point at this.
Yeah, the plan has gone out already, and it went out with approval of council.
Not my approval. It went out with council, but that's sort of the part of the reason why I'm saying that we need to have an open discussion about it, just to simply discuss it. I'm not asking for a vote. I'm just simply asking for a discussion on either. At the very least, the COVID drive-in pass is a council issue that directly affects the medical pass, and quite honestly, in long term, has a fairly substantial weight on the VRA and how many cars are going to be allowed to drive in after this year.
But Steve, in fairness, we've discussed both of these issues at length. We've provided information through our various platforms to our public. There has been some feedback. I don't think it's appropriate to spend more council's time on something that's already been discussed and passed.
Okay.
Okay, I would highly disagree. Then I would just like to add one third item up, which would be the secondary plan for the parking lot that Kevin has put out in the event that there is a refusal to drive, or somebody requests that they don't have a taxi, but they have some sort of alternate option to get to their resident.
I think that's up to Kevin to make public when and if he wants to do that. Again, Steve, that is not council's call.
I disagree, given that it's a public safety matter and people need to be aware as to the options that they have at hand.
And they will be aware of those options when they pull into the parking lot. We've asked people to stop and talk to the parking lot when they come in.
That is absolutely unacceptable because this is
Steve?
a pandemic. This is the number one point
Think we've
source.
had
If there is an
enough.
epidemic, it's coming from the parking lot. This information needs to get out to the residents.
It will, when they come into the parking lot. I'm gonna,
Well, we can do it right now.
I'm gonna close this down, Steve. We're going around in circles, and council, I believe, is of
Yeah.
the same opinion. But, so we have municipal building reopening, Highway 59 and 504, speed display devices, and the volunteer award form. Can I get a mover and a seconder?
I have just,
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
that's okay. The green garbage bins and signage in the RM, specifically speed limit signs, playground, pedestrian crossing.
Are you talking about the individual bins, Mike? Garbage bins?
No, I'm talking about the
Municipal
green, the
bins?
big green collector bins, yeah.
And signage within the RM.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? I'm sorry. Erwin, Graham? Anything more, Steve?
No, I'm okay with those additions.
All right. Nothing else?
That's good for me, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you, carried. All right, minutes of the,
Moved and seconded, so Jen-
Mike moved.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, who seconded? Graham seconded.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Moving on to the minutes of the May 19th, 2020 regular meeting of council, which has been circulated to all council members. May I have a mover and a seconder to adopt these minutes? Erwin, thank you. Steve, thank you. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of the minutes? Carried, thank you. We have no delegations. Moving on to accounts and finances, which was received by all of council. Erwin, let's get the resolution first. Be it resolved that the following list of accounts be approved for payment. Accounts payable checks 8400 to 8421 in the amount of $41,614.01. May 29th payroll in the amount of $48,268.16. And Visa in the amount of $5,776.47. May I have a mover and a seconder? Erwin moving, Mike seconding. Thank you. Discussion? Erwin, anything? Microphone? There we go.
Yep.
I've reviewed the list of accounts and they appear to be in order. Nothing from no super payments.
Okay, anybody else? All right. No further discussion. All those in favor? Great, carried, thank you. No business arising from the previous meeting, so we'll move on to other business. 2020 parking lot rates.
Sorry, my mic was off there.
Sorry.
If we could just, if I could just follow up on one quick thing, and this is related to what we discussed in the last meeting.
Okay.
I was requested to follow up on this as well, which I was wondering if we've had any movement on the request to the Selkirk School Board to have a discussion with them regarding the transportation issues that were brought forward in the last meeting with some of our youth. As well as the just general taxation.
I don't know that we have any say with the Lord Selkirk School Division, is that correct?
Yeah, it's strictly with the trustee. We should be
Well,
contacting
So
the
the-
did say that we would request out to have
I
a
thought-
meeting with them.
Do we,
No, I don't recall that, but
yeah, do we know how many students are being affected by this issue, Steve?
The numbers are a little vague, again, because we have so little communication with the school board, but at last count, I believe we have somewhere between 9 to 12 students that are being made to drive at least an hour over to Walter White, and up to 2 hours one way to Selkirk.
But again, it should be, as Erwin pointed out, they should be going directly to their trustee. We have no say in
Yeah.
what Lord Selkirk does with the money we get.
Well, we do pay them over $2 million a year.
But
and
that's
I
all
think
we
that
do.
it's not
That's
unreasonable
all
to-
we do.
That doesn't,
That's all we do though.
unfortunately, that does not give us any say at all.
No.
The only say we have, and it's not as an elected council, but the only say that some of us have, is to the extent that permanent residents are able to vote in the Selkirk trustee elections.
Mhm.
That's as far as our connection goes.
So they really should, they really,
I do just want to note that in the last meeting, we did say that we would reach out to see if they'd be open to having a discussion, so.
But I thought we also said, you also said that you would reach out to the family to see if they'd talk to their trustee.
They have reached out and they haven't heard back.
well,
But
they've
that's
got to
all-
hammer their trustee then.
I recall that as well, Steve. So you followed up with the family. And is the family a permanent residents of RNVB such that they're able to vote in the Selkirk trustee elections?
Unfortunately,
Well, they're trying to
that's,
exercise their right. I think council would certainly support that, but we have to maybe give it a little bit longer to see if they do get some sort of response.
Maybe they can send a letter of support or something.
Erwin, your mic's up.
I was just going to say, let's just wait and see. You know, this has been an ongoing contentious issue for years and years and years, and unfortunately, there is no reasonable solution. We can't build a high school closer. The cost would be excessive. It's an unfortunate reality for children living in the country, and it's not unique. It's not unique to Victoria Beach.
It's been looked at for years and years. The only viable alternative is to have a number of students change school division and bus them to Pine Falls Powerview. But nobody has been able to demonstrate how that would save any time or money or bus time. Or where else.
I would note that the budget issue, this is the first time that this has come up. It has been an ongoing issue, but one that most people haven't brought up before. But it's one that was brought up to me as this person was very concerned about the youth. So it is a new issue, and I don't think that it's unreasonable to simply ask for a discussion. And we said that we would ask for a discussion in the last meeting. And I mean, what's the harm in asking if they'll come up and have an open discussion with us?
Well, I
have no
recall
say.
that we asked you to follow up with the concerned parents. The amount of time having to be spent on buses is certainly regrettable. What's the alternative? Where else are they going to be bused to?
Well, I mean, it's a logistic issue that we could have input in.
I would
I don't
suggest first, I would suggest first that they continue pursuing this with their trustee. If their trustee continues to be a non-performer, then and only then, I think, can they go directly to the Selkirk School Board and say, our trustee is not responding to us, we have an issue, please discuss. But right now, it's got to be in the hands of the trustee, because that's their job.
Trustee in writing, and if they choose to CC the RMVB council, that's fine. That doesn't do any harm.
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Steve. All right, moving on to 2020 parking rates, we have a resolution. Be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council approved the 2020 parking lot rates as follows. Seasonal 45, second car 40, daily 8, weekly 20, 2 weeks 31, 3 weeks 33, monthly 35, weekend $11.50, long weekend $13.50, golf $3, shopping $3, motorcycle $5, seasonal golf and shopping is $33. And this is part of the lease agreement with the taxi parking lot service operators. So may I have a mover and a seconder? And then we can have discussion. Erwin moving, Graham seconding, thank you. Discussion.
Discussion?
Sure.
Yeah.
Saying the volume's breaking up. On discussion, Steve raised an issue. He didn't like the reduced rate for a second vehicle. Steve, could you elaborate on that for us, please?
This is something
Well,
that, go ahead, Steve.
it's been something that's kind of been historic. I mean, traditionally, the first vehicle pays more, the second vehicle pays less. Given that we're trying to be a generally clean municipality, it doesn't make any sense to me that we would give any sort of, I suppose the parking lot would give any sort of discount to a second vehicle. I mean, if somebody's coming and parking into the parking lot, they should at least have to be at the same amount as the first vehicle, if not arguably more. But I see no reason why they should be allowed to pay less.
I have brought this up with Kevin more than once, and they don't feel it's an issue, and they are willing to keep it in for whatever reason. So,
Yeah, I don't agree with you either, but if it's the way they do business, I mean, it's a...
Just that practice.
I don't think really $3 to $5 is going to encourage people to leave their car at home, you know.
Absolutely.
There's lots of people in the vehicle restricted area, Steve, as you know, who will come up for a weekend when the vehicle restriction is not on, and there's 5 cars in their driveway. And I don't think that changes in the summer. There's still 5 cars of theirs in the parking lot, right? I don't think $5 is going to make a difference. I do agree with you. I don't see the point of it anymore, but I don't feel that that's a reason not to approve
In the
it.
past, I know there's occasions when that second space at a slight discount was in fact for a boat trailer. Which doesn't do anybody any harm. It's a little bit of your volume discount. You get a bit of a deal on the second vehicle. I can't see that that's any skin off anybody's nose. And if Kevin's happy with it, why irritate a bunch of people who use this and appreciate it?
Yeah, I agree with. I too agree with Stephen.
Every little bit that sort of
Deters?
make people don't want to be using a service that is not environmentally sound, and you have to pay just a little bit more. I mean, that's just doing what we can for the environment. Yeah, it's probably not going to hold a lot of people back, but why would you offer any sort of discount for a second or third vehicle? I mean, in terms of being environmentally friendly or environmentally sound, it's just bad practice.
Well,
and again,
it's just it's noticed up until I think it was last year, but it's nonsensical to me.
and like Penny said, I agree with you in principle too, Steve, but it's just not a showstopper. It's certainly not going to be any kind of an encouragement or a detriment. It's a policy that's been long-standing with the parking lot, and let's move on and get this resolution done.
Yeah.
It's just not going to make a huge difference either way.
No, I agree.
I think we just have to follow the lead of our parking lot operator.
Exactly.
And continue to support him. Essentially, it's his call in my view.
Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay. All right. All those in favor? All those opposed? Steve, thank you very much. Carried. Moving on to 2020 taxi rates. Be it resolved, the arm of Victoria Beach Council approved the 2020 basic taxi rate of $11.50 per trip. May I have a mover and a seconder? Mike's moving it. Graham second. Thank you. Discussion?
Sorry, you cut up. I missed the last probably 10 seconds that you were just introducing the next.
Oh, sorry, Steve. Be it resolved, the arm of Victoria Beach Council approved the 2020 basic taxi rate of $11.50 per trip.
Sorry.
And discussion? Mike?
Should we also be including the secondary option of $15?
Steve, that's up to Kevin to advise his clients of.
Yeah. We'll stay on task.
I mean, I would fall under the same purview as that.
This
I
is
mean,
the,
unless I'm totally off base, but it seems to me that it would be the exact same. It's under the same scope as a general rate.
Well,
it isn't a general
It's not a
rate.
basic rate, and we're just, this resolution is discussing.
$15 is for quite a different form of service than
But
your
let's,
basic
you know,
$11.50 taxi. It involves quite a bit more time.
Okay,
There's
point of order,
also- yeah.
point of order, Madam Reeve.
Yeah.
This resolution is discussing basic taxi rates. Let us focus on
Thank
what
you.
this resolution is for, and let's pass it or defeat it and move on.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion relating to the resolution? All right, call the question. All those in favor? Is that an in favor, Steve? Okay, great. Thank you, carried. Thank you, Mike. Very much. Moving on to opening the play structures. Whereas public play structures may be reopened to the public under the current Manitoba Health Guidelines, and whereas these public play structures may still pose a significant exposure risk to the COVID-19 virus, therefore be it resolved that the Arm of Victoria Beach Council open all play structures situated on public land within the municipality's boundaries, with the understanding that these play structures will not be sanitized by the municipality, and all users must adhere to Manitoba health protocols to avoid exposure to COVID-19. Mike's moving that one. Seconder? Erwin got his hand up. Thank you. Discussion. Steve?
I think the resolution speaks for itself as to why we should not proceed. I mean, the children are largely asymptomatic. There have been a couple of youth deaths, but it's extremely rare. But predominantly, they are the primary carriers because they are typically asymptomatic. I think that we have to be extremely careful this summer. We have people coming RM from out of province and out of country, and before people say that, well, you're not allowed to, Canadian citizens are not being barred from returning. So I think it's an unreasonable thing that we open our play structures, especially if we're not moving forward with any sort of signage to put up some sort of disclaimer warning. So it's not something that I can support at all to reopen them.
All right, Mike?
I like the wording of the resolution, and people are starting to understand that a lot of this comes down to common sense and self-discipline. I would hope that any parent of a child who has been playing on a public play structure after that play is over would be made to take the appropriate steps,
Yeah.
sanitize their hands, and before interacting with other members of the family. I mean, we just...
I would like to point out that you're talking about children who are playing on a play structure who probably are not thinking about anything like that. And a lot of those kids, and I'm just being respectful because we've all been, 5 and 6 years old, are eating mud. So I don't really see, the little 5 or 6 year old being like, oh, I'm not going to put my hands to my mouth. I mean,
No,
If
they're not.
if they choose to put their hands in their own mouths, that's fine, but make sure before they come in contact with other family members after playtime is over that they have adequately sanitized so that they don't risk infecting other members of the family.
In my
but
travels,
they've already been infected, then they can be asymptomatic and spread it to the whole family.
That's
Yes, that's
why
their
we're
problem.
saying, yes, that's right.
in my travels, Steve, in the last few weekends, I will get to you in a minute, Graham. I have had several families approach me and ask me about opening the play structure, and I've explained that it has been closed for their safety, for their family's safety, for the community's safety. And the response I get, without fail, is they're open in the city, they're open in other areas, my kids play on them all the time, I make sure my kids wash their hands before and after, and we think it's ridiculous and over zealous to keep them closed. We're responsible. And I said, well, we're just keeping them closed right now for safety purposes, but without fail, they have all said, that's ridiculous, they should be open.
Again,
So, Erwin?
we're just going to be following the provincial guidelines, the province have decided that it's okay to open up play structures. There's a tremendous amount of publicity about all these things. I'm very confident that the parents and the caregivers are going to make sure that the children sanitize their hands once they get back home. You know, I think it's a very important, especially in the summer, that there be a safe place for kids to play.
Yeah. Graham, you've been waiting very patiently. Thanks, Erwin.
Yes. Yes, thank you, my turn. As far as discussion, we have carefully followed the provincial guidelines every step of the way, and have avoided developing any little parochial rules of our own above and beyond what the province has announced and voted. And I think we should stay consistent with that. If the province says it's okay to open them, then that should be the end of the discussion.
Right.
Steve?
I think what the province doesn't have, like Winnipeg doesn't have, is a whole bunch of people coming from out of country and out of
How can you
province
say that?
into their area. I mean, people are going to be flying in, they are going to be driving in, but they're going to come straight here. So we're going, like, we have a conglomerate of people who are coming from possibly very high-risk areas. I know that there's 2 families who are coming up next week who I know, but they're coming up to Victoria Beach. They're from Arizona. They're from California, and they're coming straight up here. They're making these little stops along the way, but then they're going to come straight into the RM. We have so many people who are going to be doing this. And as for children being responsible, over the last couple of weeks while I've been working on my lawn to Fire Smart, I've seen groups of 8 to 10 children just walking by and talking about what they did over the winter. I can guarantee you, if they're family, then they wouldn't be talking that way. They're obviously not family. They're obviously friends. They're getting together, and to have the play structures open is only like it. There's a real potential for an epidemic in Victoria Beach this summer, and we're ignoring that risk. And
We're not ignoring the risk.
No
We're
more
not.
so than anywhere else.
Those people coming from out of province and out of country are required to self-isolate for 14 days, including their children. So if they're on the play structure, then let's make sure that the self-isolation rules are being followed.
Well, I think at some point, things are lessening in the province or easing up some of the restrictions. It really is up to the adults in our lives to make sure that the children are aware, and we can't be the COVID police, and I think we have to follow the guidelines of the province.
Absolutely.
And we are doing that, and I think it's up to people to take responsibility for their actions. If they're blatantly doing something that's illegal, then the police should be called, I guess, but we can't stop people from doing what they're going to do.
I trust in the good sense of the majority of our residents. And let's remember, we can't legislate against stupid. That's a waste of time even attempting to do that. That's why I think we ought to get on with the vote here, Madam.
Okay, all right.
I just want to know one thing from what you said, which is that yes, you can't regulate stupid, but you can shut down the play structures. We did do that, and I don't think we should be opening them at this time.
I won't punish the many to police the few.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Good discussion. I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Carried. Moving on to public washrooms.
That is a tough one.
It is a tough one, actually, but be it resolved, the arm of Victoria Beach Council authorized the opening of the Village Green public washrooms. May I have a mover? No mover?
I'll move just to talk about it.
I'll move it,
Yeah.
get it on the table.
So Mike and Graham, thank you. And discussion. Graham, do you want to start the discussion?
Well,
What? It looked like you had something to say.
okay, well, we don't, I assume that we're only talking about the Pure Point laboratory facility. We're not concerning ourselves at the moment with the washrooms associated with the tennis courts.
That's what the resolution is about, is the Village Green tennis courts washrooms.
Okay, so we've only got one washroom to worry about. Now, with the province saying that public washrooms can reopen, enlighten me, please, are they doubling or redoubling the cleaning and the sanitizing of them?
Well, that is a bit of an issue. Public Works is responsible for opening them, closing them, supplying them, and sanitizing them. But again,
Yeah.
they're not gonna do it every hour.
Right, well, the Public Works is stuck with the job, and they've done a damn good job so far in keeping that particular facility clean. If we reopen it, aren't we gonna have to ask Public Works to check it and clean it more frequently? And I'm concerned right off the bat, is that hand cleaner loaded and operating with new batteries in it. Why don't we ask Public Works about this? They got a bigger stake in keeping it up to standards than we have on a day-to-day basis.
I think Steve's next.
Okay, sorry, Steve, go ahead. Thanks, Graham.
Yeah, no, I have the same hesitation as the play structures, with one exception, which is that as long as we can guarantee that those washrooms are going to be loaded up with hand sanitizer, and the moment that they're not, that we can close them, then I'm completely fine with it. But as long as people are able to use a public washroom without the ability to wash their hands and or sanitize them effectively, then again, I come back to the same problem, which is that, Victoria Beach is at high risk this summer, so if we can guarantee it, I'm fine with it. If we can't, then I'm opposed.
One thing to bear in mind, the Village Green washrooms have running water, so they have soap and water. And we could install hand sanitizer if required. But I don't know that we're going to be able to ensure that they're cleaned every couple hours. I don't think that's,
I don't think they have to.
pardon me,
What are
Steve?
the,
Sorry.
anyway, what are the provincial requirements as far as a public washroom? Has the Department of Health laid out some regulations that we need to follow if we're gonna open them?
Mike's gonna have a look. I'm not aware of that.
Certainly don't need it.
I would be concerned about the Pier Point, because of
It's
the
not
fact that it does not have running water. The washroom down by the tennis court has, adequate, it's a nice washroom. My grandchildren have used it a considerable number of times. And with running water, it's much easier to clean. Pier Point might be problematic.
Pier Point's not on this resolution.
Water has come up on numerous occasions, and it's a peripheral issue right here, right now. I don't want to delay the proceedings. But it's been talked about, and I would like to know when we're going to install a water tap near the Pier Point washroom. The line's right there. All you need is a 4x4 in the ground with a tap screwed to it. Could we proceed with that and get that done?
I think we're off track right now.
Yeah, I think so too.
We're only talking about the washrooms
In the Village Green. The only thing now that the pier is open, just to go back off track, with the pier open, if that Pier Point washroom isn't open, we're gonna have people using the bushes.
Yeah.
And that's a lot harder to clean up.
So I'd be willing to go along with reopening the washroom, but I have to urge once again, let's get that water tap installed nearby. It's not a big expensive item. This should not be a major
Okay. Can we talk to
decision,
Public
or at
Works
least
about
bring it
that?
up with Public Works and get it on their to-do
Make
list.
sure the hand sanitizer.
Raymond, what do you think of that?
Okay. All right. But what we have before us is, be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council authorized the opening of the Village Green public washrooms. So, on that discussion, any more discussion? All those in,
Again, my only point is that there's always some level of sanitizer
Yeah.
and or
And soap.
soap. And if we can fill it with soap, all the better, because soap is more effective than hand sanitizer.
yeah, I agree.
So won't disappear.
Yeah.
Won't disappear.
Okay. All those in favor?
I
And,
didn't really get to answer that question though.
well, there is soap in there, so I'm sure Public Works will make sure it's,
We'll keep soap in there.
yeah, they'll keep soap in there. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, okay.
All right, so everyone was in favor, carried. And I think we can leave it with Raymond to talk to Public Works about the Pier Point washroom.
I'd like to see it open.
That's a secondary issue.
Yeah.
I'd like to see something done on that, or, if not why not, please?
One of the things our Public Works lead hand mentioned to me yesterday was it's very difficult to clean because it's stud walls. So he was wondering if we could install some
Sheet the interior wall.
sheet the interior with like shower type, water resistant, repellent.
Yeah.
We should be doing it right now. It should be
Yeah,
done
so I said if we can get the sheet board, whatever it's called, the shower stuff, can you guys install it? And Trevor said yes. So that would help, and then they can hose it down.
Got a blank
No,
resolution?
the only thing through ours,
They don't
do it all.
need a resolution.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
If Public Works is willing to do that, that would be great. There's lots of materials that's available.
Yeah. And then we can get that
A
done.
little bit of a complication, but Public Works is well aware of this. With all the reinforcing so that the handbars, grab bars meet the necessary codes, they'll have to try and use the same
Studs.
the same brackets and the
Yeah.
same screw holes, but Public Works is willing to
Hardly
line
an
the
issue.
inside of that with a washable surface.
Take the
Great,
floor
I'd
away.
be happy with that.
Yeah, so that doesn't require a resolution. Raymond can just pass that on to Public Works.
Good. Okay,
Well, yeah,
Okay?
I'll stop looking at the website then.
Okay. All right, moving on. Thank you, gentlemen. To the accessibility standard for employees. Be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council approved the rural municipality Victoria Beach accessibility standard for employment. May I have a mover and a seconder, and we can discuss? Erwin, thank you. Steve, thank you. I sent this off to council later last week. They're all draft documents, but they pretty much speak for themselves. The forms, if you've had a look at them, the forms come directly from the Accessibility Disability Issues Office. So we just have to make them our own, and I think it's a pretty easy resolution. It's a pretty easy standard compared to some, but I'd like to hear your input.
well, it's good that we have the receiving forms that are handed to the employees and also the verification forms coming back. So I think it's pretty nicely orchestrated, the way it's lined up right now, and it looks pretty good from a document point of view.
Steve?
Just first step.
Steve,
Very
sorry.
simple,
Yeah, first
straightforward.
step,
Yeah,
And it requires the new employee to voluntarily
All
disclose any disabilities that they may have.
it's all employees though. Every employee is gonna be
Yeah.
requested, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Steve, sorry.
It's a good first step. I mean, I don't have any issues with it at all. I think we could go a little bit further, but I mean, there's no reason to go into that right now. I think it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, any further discussion? Mike? I
No.
keep turning my head and I miss you if you've got your hand up, so,
I'll tell you.
okay. All right, all those in favor? Carried, great, thank you so much. So if I could ask the municipalities' great admin staff to pretty up the documents and do what they need to do to make them ours?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you very much. That's great. And thank you to the Accessibility Committee.
Yes, indeed.
They're a great resource, and I'd also like to thank them for reviewing the COVID-19 parking lot and taxi cab protocols. Their input was appreciated on that. Moving on to the next item. Whereas the province of Manitoba will allow the installation of speed display devices on provincial routes, subject to the receipt of a council resolution and the location meeting the conditions set out in policy 100-C-14 relating to speed display devices. Therefore be it resolved that the Arm of Victoria Beach Council submit a request to Manitoba Infrastructure to permit the installation of a speed display device along PTH 59 and PR 504. May I have a mover, Mike, and a seconder? Graham? Thank you. Discussion. Mike, do you want to open this?
Just while I'd be very reluctant to ever leave a speed indicating device anywhere on 59 or 504 overnight by itself, I do want us to have the ability to do so in certain circumstances. So this is just it's a good idea for us to approach infrastructure to get permission to do it if a case ever does arrive where it is necessary for us to do so.
Exactly. It keeps our options open.
Yeah.
So your understanding is that you can apply for a please may we, but without specifying,
Yeah, where and why. We're
well, we have to
essentially-
say where.
Well, yeah. Oh,
You have to
okay.
say where, but we don't necessarily say when.
Yeah, exactly.
Perhaps,
It's a
right?
blanket thing.
It's just
Okay.
that's exactly
Okay.
right. It's blanket permission to do so.
Just so I know, this is the speed sign that we got last year, yeah?
Yeah,
Or is this a brand new, would this be a brand new speed sign?
same one. It's just that we've never been allowed to put them on highways before, and now the
Yeah.
province is saying that you can put them on the highway with approval.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And it would be using the one that we have, and then it's just giving us permission to be able to put it on the highway.
Right.
That's right.
Okay, great. Just one note, is that if we are concerned about it walking away, there is one of the units that for next year, if we were to go for it and grab another one, you put a GPS on it, so if somebody wants to have a little bit of fun with it, you can track it down.
We can watch them. It's a very good idea, Steve.
Yeah, it's the BB gun as you drive down the highway, or the beer bottle, or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, that you throw at it, but,
Yeah.
or that someone might
Right,
throw at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we decide in future more signage is necessary, this enables us to do so and without further hurdles. So
Right.
let's do it.
Okay, all right. All right, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Misspent youth. All right, moving on to Manitoba Health. Oh, pardon me, moving up, opening the offices. So whereas Manitoba Health has recently relaxed certain restrictions with respect to the COVID-19 pandemic, therefore be it resolved, the arm of Victoria Beach Council authorized the opening of the Municipal Administration Office to the public with limited access in order to adhere to social distancing and other safety precautions imposed by Manitoba Health, said reopening to be effective June 8th, 2020. All other municipal services buildings to remain closed to the public. Mover and a seconder?
Oh,
Mike is moving, Steve is seconding, thank you. Discussion, just to advise the three of you who aren't here in the office, Raymond had ordered and has installed the plexiglass shields on the top of Tammy's desk and on, in front of Vivian's window.
Good.
Yeah, and they
So
look great.
We're just talking about the administration office in the city,
Correct.
correct? Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So the public works building will continue to be closed?
correct.
Everything else, public, fire, police, building
Yeah.
inspector, they can all be made, you know, they can all contact them by phone or by email. And there's really no need for people to go into Public Works, for instance, other than to visit the building inspector, so,
Right. I mean, those buildings are not normally open to the public.
No.
no.
Those buildings are not normally open to the public, correct?
Well, yes and no. They respond to the doorbell, and they can. There is a mechanism as long as people remember Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then they can get in to see the building inspector, whatever. So they're not. I wouldn't say they're closed to the public. It's just that you have to get someone's attention to make things. And that's all. And this resolution deals with the office in Winnipeg, and if the staff has been consulted, and if they're okay with it, which I think is their primary consideration, then that's fine with me.
Steve?
Yeah, I was actually just about to mention that if all of if the other three staff have been consulted and they are okay with it. So if they're not, then I'm firmly against it. If they are, then I'm fine.
Good.
I agree with Steve's comment on that. If the staff are in agreement, we should proceed. If not, we have to respect their wishes.
And there will be hand sanitizer in place, and they do have a doorbell, and, you know, they can regulate who comes in and out. And they have the screens up now, so,
Yeah.
But the question's still hanging in the air. Do they agree?
Yeah, like all three other staff, aside from Raymond, because I know that Raymond's in favor of this, but all three of the other staff have been, are approving this, yes? Like they're okay with it?
Yes, they're okay, and we do have an obligation to our taxpayers to be available if they choose to come in on a restricted and controlled basis. We can't keep this door locked.
No.
Minutes come at tax time.
Yes, that's good.
okay?
I move we vote.
All right. I call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And so that takes effect June 8th, which
Yeah,
is Monday.
Yeah, because we gotta do a few other things.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. There was one more thing here. Steve, I had in your volunteer award form. Is there anything you want to discuss about that? Or did you just want it to be put on the website? Is that why you sent it out the other day?
Yeah. No, it was to get sent out, so if anybody had any final comments, then, that was it. Other than, good to go on, it's good to go onto the website. I mean, all the Heritage Committee is good with it, and, yeah, just want to get out there so we can recognize people.
Okay, Mike had a...
Just give me a little bit, I do have some suggestions for it or some comments on it. If you can just hold off until I get a response to you, Steve?
Sure.
Be in the next day or two.
Is it? Okay, yeah, no problem.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Up next was the green garbage bins. Mike,
The green monsters.
the green municipal
The
garbage.
green municipal garbage bins. I'm not talking about the bear-resistant bins. I'm talking about the green ones that we've dealt with for years. As most anybody who uses these bins will tell you, this is the time of the year where the bins tend to fill very quickly, and they tend to fill with things that are not household garbage, which is what these bins are supposed to be used for. There is brush, there is construction material. There, I have seen mattresses stuffed into these bins.
Chairs, tables.
Chairs, tables, to the point where these bins cannot be securely closed afterwards. So what we're doing is we are exacerbating our bear problem and our problem with other scavengers like raccoons, skunks, etc. And it's not just our good friends and neighbors to the south of us in the RM of Alexander. I have seen residents of Victoria Beach abuse these bins. Bears and other scavengers continue to learn bad habits that our garbage is a food source for them. We need to start a serious dialogue on what we are going to do about the garbage situation in Victoria Beach. And I know that informally several of us have bandied about ideas such as removing some or all of the green bins throughout the RM and limit garbage disposal to the green bins located at Public Works. Of course, nothing is carved in stone, but I seriously think that this council needs to come up with a resolution very soon as to what exactly we're going to do to address the garbage problem.
And I know that the Public Works guys have the carabiners on them now, which work great.
On some of them.
On some of them, when people use them. But Mama Bear has figured out that when the lid is, maybe a foot open, she can get her hand in there and swipe out the garbage.
Yeah.
So, and then you go and you look at the back of the bin, and it's empty. So people just go to the front of the bin, throw their stuff in and walk away, instead of going to the back of the bin, where it's usually empty.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that we need to do. But if we are going to do something, and this was talked about with Gord Buchanan, he had a great garbage recycling committee report, we may have to move all those big bins to one central location and fence them in. Conservation has said this method can work. If you fence them in with a high enough fence, we could even put wood on the one side so that it's not as ugly from the road, but that may be an option in the future, but it's going to cost money, and is going to need a little bit of consultation with some members of the public who don't want to lose their bins.
Yes,
But-
it's gonna take some consultation,
And it would
and some
result in-
people may have to drive a couple of minutes further to dump their garbage
And it would
off.
result in more traffic in Public Works yard.
Actually, absolutely, we would have to look at that as well.
Yeah, so Graham, you have
Just to that point, sorry, it's something that I've been noticing, especially as more and more seasonal residents come up, which is that there's starting to be a huge clog right at the entrance of the turn into the garbage area. So we seriously need to figure that one out, because there's going to be an accident pretty soon in that area. I mean, it's working. That area is definitely working, but that's a problem that I don't think that we considered originally. So we need to come up with some sort of system to get people to, I don't know, line up and drive out or whatever it is. But that is a standing issue in that spot.
Yeah, and people can, if they drive in, they can drive in front of the fire hall and go out that way and go out the next road by the sports club. They can go that way. But you're right, it does tend to get a little clogged there. And especially with social distancing, people are hanging back while one person goes up and dumps or, so, which is good.
Yeah.
But I know we did discuss the traffic and that it would result in more, but I don't know that we came up with a solution.
Yeah.
But you're right, Steve.
So this is gonna be a lot more conversation, but it's something that we have to actively come up with a resolution to very quickly.
Yeah, and we need to encourage our residents to buy bear-proof bins or bear-resistant bins, because it's not just a matter of whether or not you get garbage pickup. It's when you leave it on your deck or in your yard and it's not in a bear-proof bin, before you take it to the garbage bin. It's food for the bears or critters.
And I'm happy to see that more and more people outside of the VRA who don't have curbside pickup are getting the bins for that purpose, so they can safely store their garbage outside of the house until such a time as they can put it in their vehicle and take it to the bin for disposal.
Yeah. Any further discussion? We will carry this one on.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And next, Mike, you had signage.
Signage throughout the RM. I'm talking about speed limit signs. And this is something I know that Steve and I have talked about before. I've talked to other members of council before about this. It is high time that we properly place signage on every street in this municipality, because people don't want to break the law, but people need to be reminded that you're at the lake, okay? These roads, the roads are not designed to accommodate 50-kilometer-an-hour traffic. And people just need those reminders that on the main feeder roads off 504 and 59, the speeds are as high as 30 kilometers an hour, like Saffy Road, like David Road and such. Everything else is 20 kilometers an hour. And as we get into the summer season now, there's also, until we get dust abatement down everywhere, there's also the issue of dust and people suffering allergies and the such. But it's safety. There's children, grandchildren, pets that are living at the lake, and we have to be more responsible. So people need to be reminded, not badgered, but reminded that when you turn from one street to another, the speed limit for that street is 20 kilometers per hour. And so what I'm suggesting is that every street in the municipality that has throughway, in other words, it has two accesses, there should be a speed limit sign posted at each end of that access. And some other considerations for roads that are more than 1 kilometer in length, because you'll have a road like David Road, more than 1 kilometer in length. You can put a speed limit sign at the beginning of the road and at the other end of the road, but what about Atia and all these other roads that go into it? So we have to consider those as well. But people need to be reminded what the speed limits are in this municipality.
I did,
Mike?
Why?
Sorry, I actually submitted that exact map to council and the office easily in the first year.
Yep.
In it has proposed locations for the map, which basically follow that exactly what you just outlined, and it has the locations of all the existing speed signs, and it also details as to which ones are yellow and not enforceable signs, and which ones are white and enforceable signs. So that work's already been done. It's just a matter of carrying it out.
Yeah.
Good.
You were going to say?
It's especially difficult in Albert Beach with the Alexander parking lot. We have lots and lots of people coming to the municipality that are not familiar with our unique rules. And I think signage and enforcement of speed limits and no parking is going to be, will certainly be appreciated by the folks in Albert Beach.
Okay, then it's time we carry forward the good work that Steve's already done. I know in year one and even last year, we had a lot of stuff going on here, and maybe this one slipped through the cracks, but it can't slip anymore. It's time to do something about it.
But we did order signs, didn't we?
Yeah.
I ordered a lot of signs. So, there's a lot of signs that have been ordered.
Okay.
Speed signs, regulatory signs,
Yeah.
whether
Perfect.
they've been installed yet or not.
There's
they
very many 20K signs out there.
Okay, well,
I've ordered, there's 20K signs, there's 30K signs, there's whatever other signs we needed.
Yeah.
They're all at Public Works.
perfect,
It's because they haven't installed them yet,
Okay.
because they haven't had an opportunity to.
well then, let's
Let's put it on
marry
the
him up
list.
with
And if
Steve's
we
map and
need
let's get him
more,
out there.
Well, Penny did a very good recap of
Yeah.
a list.
Yeah, I like Steve's map, that's a
Yeah.
guide to where they need to
No, it
go,
was different.
and, well, that's fine, it looks like
Yeah.
you've got that in the works, that's great.
It's just a matter of putting it on their list of, reminding them,
Mhm.
Yeah,
their list.
And if we need more, let me know, we'll get more.
Yeah.
Okay, I've
Okay.
installed signs before. If they can't do it, I'll get out and do it myself.
Well, they've got,
Did you get signs that say no dogs on the beach?
There
No,
are-
that's a
Problem with
custom
Albert
sign, that wasn't,
No, we
when I
didn't
was
order
doing the
those.
signs, it was strictly regulatory speed signs and traffic control
Yeah.
signs. So we
Okay.
didn't get anything else at this
Okay.
point.
Well, now that we know
well,
that
you
they're
will
there,
add some dog signs to that list,
Well,
please,
let me know how many you need.
4.
well, let's not do it, let's not do it off the top of our heads right
Okay.
now.
that's, okay, but that's for, if you can figure that out and send something into Raymond, that would be a good start.
Good.
Okay, thanks
Thank
very
you.
much, Mike, for bringing that up, and thanks to Steve for putting the legwork in
Yep.
earlier. Okay, okay, we have, pardon me, correspondence. There was a few things, if I may. Okay. We did get a lengthy email recently, late yesterday afternoon from a resident about several concerns in Wanasing. I don't think council's had a chance to really review it and think about it, so I would like to put that on hold until we have had a chance to do that and we can answer in writing. I'd like to advise that the Harbor Authority and the Harbor Master have opened the federal Victoria Beach Pier and the marina to the public. But as Mike put on our website or our Facebook page, COVID-19 protocols are in effect. So social distancing, hand washing, all those things. Parking or no parking. Community Futures Winnipeg River AGM will be held June 15th in the evening. And that was a Graham or Mike
I think
committee.
Graham was Community Futures.
And it's going to be held via teleconference, I believe. Are you able to attend that, Graham?
Yes.
Okay. And just to advise, I'm attending 2 electronic meetings on June 15th, South Basin Mayors and Reeves and the Eastern Regional Lobby Committee. And the AMM Eastern Region District Meeting is also being held remotely, and that's on June the 11th, and I'm registered for that. Is anyone else registered for that one? No? Okay.
I don't want to suck up bandwidth. I figure one of us
Okay,
attending that
that's
will
fine.
be good.
Thanks to Lynn and the RM office for testing out the options on Connect.
Yes.
Great job. We would have received a text, an email, and a phone call in regard to the boil water advisory. She's just testing it all out to make sure it works, so thank you so much to her for doing that. A photographer from the Manitoba Historical Society visited the RM a week or so ago and was very interested in the 100th anniversary interpretive panels. And she took some photos. We provided her with our history hunt map, and she's going to add the history panels to the Historical Society's database of historical properties. So that's kind of cool. Reminder on that note, 100th anniversary family plaques can still be ordered for the structure in the Village Green. Forms on the website. And I would like to get another message out to residents now that we're opening and closing a few things, just to advise and to remind them about when coming in from out of province, the Manitoba Health rules in that respect. So I'd like to get something out to our residents in the next few days if we can. So
Script me something and I'll
yeah,
put it out.
and I think we'll ask Lynn to send it out. So those are my correspondence. Who's next?
Under correspondence, I'd like to add my voice to yours in recognizing and acknowledging the email from the Waniston resident. It raises some important issues. It deserves careful council attention and a detailed reply. Some of these items the solutions might already be in the works, but I think we have a responsibility to respond to and reply to these issues. As far as the bin and the bin location, naturally we're dealing with a not in my backyard situation, which is completely legitimate. That's what happens. I would be interested to know if there's any consensus amongst the Waniston residents as far as that bin. So that's all part and parcel of studying this, dealing with it, and responding to it. And I thank Dana for her letter. Thank you.
I'd just like to echo those comments as well. The email was extremely well written. It provided the problems, but it also provided some recommended solutions. Will we be asking administration to review the email and report back to council on the practicality of some of the solutions suggested?
Like so it's going to be council themselves that are going to.
Yeah,
I think it's mostly a council.
I think it is
I'd
mostly.
suggest this is mostly a council conversation, Erwin.
Yeah, they're policy issues.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that it doesn't fall between the cracks again and disappear.
Well,
It's not
we
gonna
just-
happen.
I mean,
We just got it yesterday.
I practiced up to now, and it works pretty well, I think. Very often, Penny has undertaken to respond to some of these more detailed and more contentious ones, and she circulates it amongst the rest of us, asking for our comments, suggestions, deletions, so that what goes out reflects the consensus of council. I think that system has worked very well and could apply here.
Okay, I will do that and send it to council. Steve?
I would just note real quick that she does raise the issue of sort of safe crossing sites or just a spot where there is some signage to show that children are crossing a certain location in Waniston. But I do want to bring up the fact that we should also be doing that same thing for the same reasons over in Albert Beach for the crossing between Sappies and Lagoche, because the same issues there, but it more intense because there's far more traffic.
Yeah, pedestrian crossing signs. There actually is a pedestrian crossing sign to the east of Sappies. When you're approaching Sappies from the east on Sappy Road, there actually is a yellow and orange pedestrian sign. There should be one coming the other way as well, but
that's-
that would be on the Alexander
That's
side,
the
so they'd have to
Alexander.
post it.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, anything else pop up for anyone?
There was that one email from Miss, or I'll just call her Miss D, because she didn't say that we could use her name.
Well, she asked to be brought to this meeting with her name.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, sorry, what are you talking about, Steve?
Go ahead, Steve.
It was just it was in response to a medical request for a medical permit, and the offer was proposed to her that she could ask for the taxi escort service for $15.
Okay, Steve, enough.
Um,
Enough.
Okay,
Stop.
okay.
Stop, please. We've already discussed
It is
this.
under the purview.
Steve, we've discussed this. That's Kevin's purview. Let's discuss it with Kevin on Friday, when council meets with him.
By the way, on Friday, where's that meeting to be held, please?
It will be at the parking lot, outside.
That's very good. Good.
Um,
I'm going to note that it is a correspondence.
It was in correspondence, and I haven't answered it yet, Steve, you're right. But it was to do with several items. It wasn't just one.
Yeah.
So,
And four were things I wanted to discuss in a correspondence.
but the problem with it right now, Steve, is that council gets together and goes over all the permit applications at one time. We've asked for them to be in by the 15th of June, so that gives us 10 days to approve and review them. I'd like to do that earlier, like around the 16th, which is just before our council meeting, so that council can review the applications that have come in. We have a process in place that council has agreed to, and I think we need to stick to that.
I would ask just this one thing. Why do we want to keep this quiet, this option for people who have a medical condition who may be more susceptible and
we do have a medical,
very real life and death situation way,
it's not,
that this is an option that people can use. Yet because the operator has asked us to be quiet on it, we're not openly discussing it in council. This falls
Steve?
directly within this part of the meeting.
Can we move?
I'm not going out of bounds here because
Yes,
it
you
is a
are.
correspondence.
It's
There's
their
four very
business.
legitimate questions here and points to this.
It is their business, Steve.
it's the operator's business. Pardon me? Pardon me?
Are we just keeping this within Kevin's
No.
Kevin's friendships and ours? Because
No.
this should be made public. This should be public information. And
It
to say
will
that,
be public
oh,
when-
these things should be in. I mean, this is information that this is an option that should be made public.
Anyone who
If people don't
contacts
know
me,
that, and
Steve,
they drive up, then they're going to think it's a regular summer and that they don't have an option.
Steve, if they contact us, we can advise them that there may be another option, but they have to go through the parking lot. This is not our business. This is the parking lot's
But-
operations. I think we've had enough of this discussion. You've brought it up, you've tried to bring it up several times during the meeting, and we've tried to shut you down every time. I'm really sorry to be disrespectful.
This is part of this meeting. This is part of this meeting right now. This is a correspondence from a resident, and I want to talk about this
So direct the resident
now.
Direct the resident to the person they should be speaking to, not us, the parking lot.
And
They asked us, and they responded with the exact option that they have on the table. So this has now come within within our scope. This
No,
has
it
now
hasn't.
come within our knowledge, and we're telling residents selectively who has this option.
we are telling residents to,
The second that we tell somebody that they have this option, we owe it to the taxpayers to tell everyone.
it is not
So-
our story to tell, Steve. If someone asks us if there may be another option, that is where we can say, please talk to the parking lot operator. They may have this option
No, that's not
available
what
for you.
did. You told them what they could do.
Exactly. And I said, talk to the parking lot operator. This is what option he is offering. I cleared it with the parking lot operator before I answered the email. He does not want it, he does not
Why?
want it. Because it's his
The
business,
public-
Steve. Did we publicly announce the bakery prices? Do we publicly announce the moonlight prices? Do we?
All of the pricing today, but we haven't approved this. We approved the fees.
We don't have
we
to,
approved the
Steve.
fees for transport. We're not going to approve this.
We don't have to. That is not part of the regular operation of the parking lot.
Please.
Steve, I think the rest of council is in agreement.
I'm sorry, but this is absolutely unacceptable. I'll move on, but as long as this is on the record, that I'm firmly against not making this public.
It's not your choice to make it public, Steve. It's not council's
Absolutely,
choice to
but
make it
I'm saying
public.
that I'm against not making this public. This
It's
is
not up to
an
you.
option for residents, and we're not giving it to them.
Because
Then
we
please
will
bring
run
it
the
up with,
parking lot.
please bring it up with Kevin on Friday. and let Kevin satisfy you as to whether or not he wants to make it public and why he would or would prefer not to have it publicized. It's his business, not ours.
Okay,
If he's charging for it, it's part of his lease.
okay, I can't go any further on this conversation.
I think after the meeting on Friday, it may be appropriate to have some sort of a release through our various platforms advising people on what they can reasonably expect to have happen at the parking lot at taxi services for this year, but only after we've had an agreement with our taxi and parking lot operator. Otherwise, you know, we're exceeding our authority. Clearly, we have to respect the contract that's in place between the municipality and the taxi and parking lot service.
Yeah.
And let's not lose sight of the fact we're actually talking about two entirely different issues here. One is the so-called escort service, and the other one is the traditional letter from your doctor to be allowed to be issued a temporary half-hour pass, and that's in place, and that's unchanged, and that covers the situation even this year. There might be more applications. If your doctor wants to say, this person cannot take a taxi, all right, fine, do it. But the procedure is there, and people are aware of it. There's no difference in getting a medical pass this year than any other year. There might be more reasons, but that's fine. We'll deal with it.
You know, I tend to agree with Steve on one point. I don't know if it's public knowledge about the availability of the medical permits.
It's becoming
Perhaps
that.
some attention should be given to sharing that information on a broader basis.
The medical permits have always been an option, always. So, or for
Yeah.
several years, and didn't we announce
They
that?
require, and at last meeting we announced it, and they require, any application for medical permit requires an accompanying letter from a physician.
Right. And that it's for an annual basis, it's not,
I have a real problem with the expression COVID pass. That's just going to start a stampede.
That's not what the correspondence was about.
Okay then, on that, okay, that's not what the
Okay.
correspondence is about. On point of order,
Thank you.
Madam Reeve,
that's,
can we move
Yes.
for adjournment?
all right. There was nothing else on our list, gentlemen. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June the 16th, 2020 at 1 p.m. here in the RM office. Unless or until the two options at the beach can ensure social distancing
Yeah.
protocols, I don't see that changing. I don't,
I'm hoping, I'm hearing that there are some plans to start
The social scene is
spinning
still
up.
considering over the next few weeks.
Right.
So we're certainly, it doesn't appear that we're ready to
Yeah.
resume the meetings at the social scene. But July, the window is still open. June doesn't look like it.
okay.
And the community center, evidently they are going to be permitted to do some canteen service and such, so I'm kind of hoping that we may be able to have meetings out at the beach
Soon.
in both venues, yeah.
But for now, the next one is Tuesday, June 16th here
Yeah.
at 1 o'clock.
Right. 1 o'clock.
Yes. So, may I have a mover and a seconder? Mike move, Irwin second. All right, all those in favor of adjourn? Thank you. Carrie. All right,
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, folks.
thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll see you Friday.